From the studios of WPGX, Fox 28, it's News View with Don Arias.
Welcome to News View. I'm Don Arias, and tonight we have Lieutenant General Bill Etter with us. He's the commander of the Continental United States NORAD region, 1st Air Force, and AFNORTH, or Air Forces Northern. General Etter, thank you so much for coming out to News View. I appreciate you coming out here.
Thanks, Don. Thanks for having me on.
That's quite a title. Does that all fit on the business card, or?
It makes for a longer business card, but it's a long title because there's actually 3 fairly distinct mission sets that go along with that. But it all boils down to the same thing, protecting America. As commander of the Continental United States NORAD region, I think everybody knows what NORAD is. I mean, you see it in movies and things like that. But what is the Continental United States NORAD region? What does that define, and what does that mean? NORAD, which is a 55-year-old agreement that we have with our great partners, the Canadians, is broken into 3 regions. It's ANR, which is the Alaska part, CONR, which is basically the country of Canada, and then CONR, which is the lower 48 states. So that's the part that's my area of responsibility.
So you surveil that area. And you and CONR, the people of CONR, surveil that area and provide protection against air attack. Is that fair to say?
We do. We detect, deter, and if required, defeat air threats against the United States of America.
After 9/11, or before 9/11, some people had said that NORAD's kind of a quaint idea. The Soviet Union is gone. We've got no pure competitor anymore. And there were some voices out there that said, we really don't need air defense. And then 9/11 hits, and then there's a focus on air defense again. Where are we now, 11 years after 9/11?
Well, I think where we are is we're in a way better place when it comes to the command and control and the ability to react quickly. We're very, very close with our primary partner with this, with the airspace, with the FAA. Matter of fact, driving to the studio, I was speaking to a senior leader of the FAA on the phone about an issue. We get along great, but we're able to talk to each other very quickly. We have very solid procedures, because this is a no-mistake business, no mistake. So we have very solid procedures to get aircraft out there, get eyes on, assess, and then decide what to do. And we also have the procedures to actually, if we have to engage an aircraft within the United States, that we can do that. We really didn't have before 9/11, because we really didn't think we'd have to do that.
Yeah, it's amazing stuff how this has changed. I'd like to talk more about you and the mission and the men and women of 1st Air Force on the other side of these important messages. You're watching News View. I'm speaking with Lieutenant General Bill Etter.
You're watching News View with Don Arias.
Welcome back to News View. I'm speaking with Lieutenant General Bill Etter, commander of 1st Air Force and the Continental United States NORAD region and Air Forces Northern. Now, we sort of kind of defined what CONR was and what the NORAD mission was and where it had been and where it's going. What is 1st Air Force? What does that represent?
Well, 1st Air Force is one of the 4 numbered air forces assigned to Air Combat Command, which is headquartered out of Langley, Virginia. So that is the organized, train, and equip role of the service, as we provide forces through a service to a combatant commander. That's done through ACC, and that's where the 1st Air Force role comes in.
Okay, so the numbered Air Force, or 1st Air Force, is the highest warfighting echelon in the Air Force. Is that a true statement? Or?
That would be correct, yes.
And
then you get to MAJCOMs after that.
Right. But they're not necessarily warfighters, with some exceptions, I guess.
Yes.
But at any rate, then 9/11 happens.
Okay.
We get this huge ops tempo. Now we're settled down, and we've got this credible air defense shield around America. And then you've got a new command that comes up after 9/11 in NORTHCOM. Now, NORTHCOM isn't necessarily NORAD, is it?
No, it isn't. It is. Although the commander of NORTHCOM is dual-hatted as the commander of NORAD, General Jacoby. But what United States Northern Command does is it has its responsibility from the southern border of Mexico up to the North Pole. And a lot of what we do through the U.S. Northern Command is defense support to civilian authorities. We would also do homeland defense. If someone was to attack the shores of the United States, that would be the combatant commander charged with protecting the United States. Fortunately, the majority of the work we do is supporting civilian authorities with military equipment so that we can help mitigate the suffering of something that we've had no shortage of natural disasters occur here, as you know, in the last 10 years with a large number of hurricanes, floods, fires, those types of incidents.
Most recently, what have you been involved with insofar as providing military assistance to civilian authorities?
Well, the last one we did would be this morning. So last night we got the call that the floods in Iowa were actually going to be a little bit more than they thought. So we sent an emergency preparedness liaison officer and a search and rescue planner out to Iowa. Last night and this morning we were working that. 2 weeks ago, when we were in the middle of our hurricane preparedness exercise, the tragic tornado ripped through Moore, Oklahoma, and we sent a few people out there, and we also had a large number of aircraft postured in case any kind of response. Now remember, we're in support of the civilian authorities. If they had determined that there was a need to bring more stuff in, we were well positioned to respond rapidly.
So the way it goes, if I'm hearing you correctly, sir, is that when a disaster hits a state, the state tries to take care of it, and if they can't, they go to the next level and say to the feds, hey, FEMA, we need a hand up here.
Yes, and if I could, they actually started at the first level, at the local. Local, state, then to federal, and we bring in the assets. And for example, in Superstorm Sandy, New York City could not have possibly had as many pumps as required to pump out all the water that had gone into the subways and stuff. So that's a classic case of where the federal assets were pooled, brought forth to New York, still remained under the control of the New York leadership, but they were able to pump out the subway tunnels and restore as much normalcy of life as they could as rapidly as possible.
So the military doesn't take over.
No,
the military just brings stuff for the civilians to use and lend assistance where it
But
can.
we're really good at it because, as you know, the military has been used a lot, very experienced people, and they know how to get things done efficiently, rapidly, and effectively.
That's true. That's true. And as far as the movement of large items like that, who does it better than the Air Force?
Nobody.
Yeah. Getting stuff to where it needs to go, like pumps and things like that.
Yep, and we did.
Has that always been the case with the Air Force, or is this something recent that's come about?
Well, I mean, everyone knows in Katrina that there was a large devastation with the flooding and a large number of people respond, up to 55,000 to make it work. We are much, much better now than we were at an organized, timely response to make sure that the right equipment gets to the right place at the right time. There's no sense having the bulldozers show up if the bulldozer driver's not there yet. So there's a lot of sequencing that has to be thought through. We've got plans now on the shelf where we can just pull it and go, okay, here, and we get the effective response just as soon as we can.
So not only are the people of 1st Air Force and CONR protecting us from attack, but they're providing assistance to civil authorities when disaster strikes.
Yes, and
it's the very least I think we can expect from our government is to do those type of things, but it's kind of a novelty for some people to see the military involved in that.
No, that's something we do. That's actually, in our mission set. We feel we do it extremely well because one of the things unique about 1st Air Force is that a large portion of it is made up of the Florida Air National Guard. Their Adjutant General, Major General Buddy Titshaw, has provided us a force with about an 8-year on-station average experience. So most of these folks, when you go, how did we do it the last 3 times? Well, they know how we did it the last 10 times. So that they're very, very good. And that's why during our exercise, as soon as the tornado hit in Moore, Oklahoma, we made that the #1 priority, but we were able also to continue with the exercise because they're so good they can do both, and we did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a pretty tall order.
Well, but also it makes my job very easy. I'm very fortunate to have these folks, and they are just outstanding.
Yeah, that's amazing stuff. Now, where were you before this? I mean, here you've come into this organization, which is pretty well seasoned, I would imagine.
Very well seasoned.
And
yes.
And where were you before this?
I was at the Pentagon. And I've been at in
I'm
Washington.
So sorry to hear that. No.
Yes. No. It's a great place. It's important work, but. I've had a number of assignments in the last 5 years. Almost all of them had to do with Defense Support Civilian Authority, domestic response, or Homeland Defense. So this was a very natural fit. Most of what I've done since 1987 has been air defense. So this is like coming home, and it's just an outstanding position to have.
So how do you like living in Bay County?
This has been great.
Yeah.
I can't think of a more welcoming community for an Air Force base. There might be, but I don't know of one. The folks here, the Mayor Bernanke and Kelly of Panama City and Lynn Haven, Al McCambry of the Military Affairs Committee, Tom Neubauer of the Bay Defense Alliance, they've just been fantastic and very welcoming, and I couldn't say enough about them.
Well, good. I'm glad you like it here, and we're glad First Air Force is here. We've got to run off to another break, but let's talk more about your mission, and let's talk more about you and the men and women of First Air Force on the other side of these important messages. You're watching NewsView. I'm speaking with Lieutenant General Bill Etter.
You're watching NewsView with Don Arias.
Welcome back to NewsView. I'm speaking with the commander of First Air Force in the continental United States NORAD region, Lieutenant General Bill Etter. General Etter, we've talked a lot about the defense support for civil authorities that you guys do out there, but there's a lot of other little mission sets that you do, and I say little in a relative term. The Air Force Rescue and Coordination Center, what is that?
Well, that's the single point of contact if you want an Air Force asset to come out and help find somebody. So right now, as we speak,
Find somebody as in like a lost hiker or
we do
a downed airplane?
Exactly, both of those, and we get calls every day about that. So last year they averaged about one save every other day, and this year we're about on the same track as we speak now. We've had 50 saves to date, and they use a lot of different tools in the toolkit to include, you know, if someone has an emergency locator beacon, it comes off a satellite, they figure that out, they tell authorities, hey, you need to look here. We can use cell phone data now to help try to rescue people. Most people have a cell phone, and if that's available, to coordinate with the Civil Air Patrol or local military, be it active guard or reserve units, to put out a helicopter or an airplane, and it's quite effective, and they actually save a lot of lives. They do great work.
That's amazing. So that is basically the clearinghouse for rescue coordination.
Yes, that's a great way to look at it, yes.
For the Air Force.
Yep.
So you've got a local authority that says, hey, we've got a downed airplane or some lost hikers.
And they call, and then we know what to do.
And it works its way up the chain to you and to the coordination center.
Yes, and very rapidly, by the way, and that's what needs to happen, because this past week we had one lost person that was 5 years old and one that was 83 years old. So as you know, that time is critical when people are outside.
Yeah, especially if you're in the wilderness somewhere, or you're an elderly or very young person.
Yep.
Good grief, yeah. So then you'll send in the assets or the aircraft or whatever to go find that person and bring them back to safety.
We do.
You had mentioned the Civil Air Patrol. Now, my son was a member of the Civil Air Patrol, and a lot of people don't know this because you think of like Boy Scouts and their youth programs that they have. But they're also an auxiliary of the Air Force, aren't they?
They are, and they're also every year growing more and more capable and important. The Civil Air Patrol, for a very effective cost, if you need an asset over the top, for about 1/10 the cost of some of the more expensive and sophisticated aircraft, if you just need some eyeballs to look, that's a great solution. And we use them for a number of mission sets, and they're really, really good at it.
So if they need to go, say, I don't want to say surveil because you don't do surveillance in the homeland, but if you wanted to go do an assessment of, say, maybe flood damage or tornado damage, and you're in charge of all these fighters, how much does it cost to send an F-16 up there and fly around? I mean, that seems like a pretty expensive proposition.
Not only that, it may not be the right asset if it doesn't have the right thing to take any kind of documentation of the damage. Whereas the Civil Air Patrol has actual cameras that geolocate, so when you take a picture, you know where it is, and they're able to send the right people to help rescue. So it's for the niche that they do, they're very good at it, and we're fortunate to have them as an auxiliary.
So rather than sending out a big expensive airframe for several $1,000s an hour, you could send a smaller, propeller-driven airplane by the Civil Air Patrol and get more bang for your buck for a couple $100 an hour.
And we do, yep. So I think you've categorized that pretty well. We do.
So that's a great asset to have at your disposal. But not only is it a great asset to have, but I think just as a taxpayer, you kind of feel better about it. I mean,
Well, in today's world, what we
Mhm.
have to do is be as smart as we can to provide a defense and support for, America. But we have to consider cost all along, and we do. And this is one of the ways we do that.
Yeah, so not only are you helping civilians out there who may be in need, but you're doing it, on a budget.
And we're also training a number of people in the world who could come up and perhaps take my position. They're all usually interested in aviation. That's why they're in the Civil Air Patrol.
That's right.
So there's a lot of goodness here.
Yeah, there is a lot of goodness there. I only know a little bit about the Civil Air Patrol because my son was a member for so many years, and he was actually used to go to his meetings out there at Tyndall, and great youth program.
Yep.
Great youth program, but they have that also other dimension of doing real world stuff.
And they do, yes.
And I think it inspired him to want to fly.
Well, good.
So he's got a few hours. He's got a book and got a logbook and all that stuff. And
Always starts that way.
yeah, that's the way it starts.
That's the way it starts.
Is that how you started?
Pretty much. I was in Air Force ROTC, and I went to Windham County to get my private pilot's license, and then there I went to pilot training. So
Windham County, where's that?
that's out in the eastern part of Connecticut. That's where I learned to fly. When I say learn to fly, my very first flying there. Then went on to Mississippi to go to undergraduate pilot training with the Air Force, is what they called the program at the time.
Is that Columbus?
It was Columbus.
Yes. Yeah.
So very good experience.
Okay, so it's been a long. Now, how many years have you been in the military?
34 years, which is
34
hard for me to believe. I don't know how it's gone. It's been wonderful, but seems like it's been really quick, and I think you'd probably share that experience.
It does
today,
go
right?
fast.
Yeah, it does. So
And I guess when you're busy,
it's been very busy, but it's all good things. Very blessed as a family, but it's been very quick.
and how is your family adjusting from I guess the D.C. area to this different climate and this
My
Southern
family's
culture?
pretty used to what's going on. My wife retired a couple years ago as a colonel from the Air National Guard, so she's well versed in what this is all about. My children have grown up with this, and matter of fact, two of them, one is a civilian scientist for the Air Force, and another one is working with the VA for the wounded warriors with the loss of limbs and prosthetics. So they're pretty much know a lot about the military.
Yeah, so you really are a true military family.
Yes.
Wow, isn't that? It's fascinating stuff. We got to run off to another break, and we'll talk more about 1st Air Force, Tyndall, and what the future holds for us out there after these important messages.
You're watching NewsView with Don Arias.
Welcome back to NewsView. I'm speaking with the commander of 1st Air Force, Lieutenant General Bill Etter. General, we've talked about all the different mission sets of 1st Air Force and talked a little bit about you as well. I think what's on everybody's mind now is that here we are, we've got this thing set up that'll protect us and help us in times of need that we call 1st Air Force.
Yes.
What's the future hold for 1st Air Force?
I would say the future is going to look similar to where we are now. A lot of the things that will change are hard to actually see. People see F-16s flying around. I started flying the F-16 in 1982. The airplane is almost nowhere near what it was. It's got different radar, it's got improved weapons, it's got improved communication. So you're not going to see a huge change that you can look at, but in the sense of software capabilities, command and control, communications, we will continue, and we need to continue to modernize and improve to keep up. Because right now we're in good shape, but the world changes, so we need to change with it.
And what about, these are austere times. We've got the sequestration, we've got furloughs and things. How is that going to affect 1st Air Force and its mission?
Well, there will be an effect. We're active duty, Guard, Reserve, civilian, and contractors. Our civilians are a very, very important part of our organization, bring a lot of experience. This week we had to give out 180 furlough letters. We don't feel good about it. It's the budget, it's the times that we live in, but it's going to be more difficult to do what we do. We will do what we need to do, but it's going to be a little more difficult.
Will you still be able to provide the protection that we've all come to expect?
We will, but that means everyone who's not getting a furlough notice is going to work harder, and the people who get furlough notice are taking a pay cut, to include my son, who's also in a different state in the same situation. So I'm very, very familiar with the effect on people. I wish there was another way to do it. Right now there is not. As we go forth and the elected leaders in D.C. make decisions, we'll have to see how that plays out.
But in the meantime, we can sleep easy because you're not. And we can come to expect the same level of service from First Air Force and CONR and AF North that we've been accustomed to. So we really should we worry?
No, you should sleep well because we're on the watch, and we have people 24/7, 365 watching what's going on. They know what they're doing, and they're going to protect America really well.
General Etter, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for coming out to Newsview. It's been a real honor having you here, and you're certainly welcome back anytime.
Great, my pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Enjoyed meeting you. Thank you.
You've been watching Newsview, and I've been speaking with the Commander of First Air Force, Lieutenant General Bill Etter.